Hey, good morning to those of you out there on the West Coast. Good afternoon to those of you here on the East Coast. Sorry, I'm getting a little bit slow start here. For those of you who track on me every single day, I just got a sick kid and I'm bouncing back and forth trying to help him. Let me just get LinkedIn up so I know that I'm live. If somebody wants to give me, hey, Brett, if you want to give me a kind of a sound check on there. And 2 seconds. Hey, Steve. Hi, Patricia. I usually don't say hi. I'm just trying to get my thing going. I say hi after the fact, not before the fact. Okay. Hey, we're going to get started here in just a second. One thing I want to give a tip for those who showing up early and on time, because I really appreciate when you do. When you do it, let's LinkedIn know that that we're getting started, right? So it pushes the word out to LinkedIn to other people. And so I think today we have 140 plus people registered. And these are incredible chances for us to network. And so for those of you showing up early and on time, if you don't know this, first off, if you're not on LinkedIn, get over on LinkedIn because that's the networking part of social media. But if you go into my event where you register and you click attend or something, once you attend, then you can see everybody else who said they're attending. And so you'll get access to 140 people. And these are people who are interested in GSA today is what we're talking about. That means they're pretty good chance that they're solidly in the federal market. And so you can reach out to them and say, hey, can we, I was in Neil's training. I'd love to connect just to on LinkedIn. You don't have to say a lot, right? I put this out there a lot of times. This is just the network. It doesn't mean we're great friends. It just means, you and I are great friends for sure. But the network is just the network, right? And that's a quick, easy way to do it is go into my event and then open up all the people who were registered and you can get started. Okay, we're going to get started here right now talking about what I just called hidden GSA tools. And hidden is a kind of a loaded term in the sense that it just means maybe you don't know about it yet. I could have put a different title there that's, GSA tools you may or may not know of. That's what I want to go into, though. GSA has got all sorts of tools. And frankly, the federal government has all sorts of tools. And it's this fun exercise of going around and finding them. And that's what I want to share with you today. I was thinking about this when I was doing preparation and how this kind of relates. And so bear with me for 1 second. My whole career, I've heard about the good old boy system. Sometimes I'm in the good old boy system, just because of how I, like in the Army, for example, that's a good old boy system. It might not be as tight as like Charleston, Virginia or South Carolina or wherever the heck it is, right? But there's certain places that are even tighter and tighter. But sometimes I think that our ignorance, and I'll come down to that in a minute. So if that's a trigger word for you, relax. I'm not trying to say something bad. Ignorance is not bad. It's just a state. It's not an accusation. But sometimes I feel like our ignorance makes us feel like there's more to the good old boy system, that's out there, or that there's more impact that the good old boy system has. And that's, in my opinion, that's not really the case. Because sometimes if I look at, let's say the Navy, I'm an Army guy and I try to get into a Navy installation or something or base, and I don't know anything about the Navy. I don't speak the language, et cetera. Well, I could sit there and say, well, it's the good old boy system. And it's kind of like I'm blaming that. Or I could sit there and say, well, I'm just ignorant. I hate that word just as a period. But, ignorance is just this lack of knowledge. I have a lack of knowledge about the Navy, about GSA is what I'm going to talk about today. But ignorance is the thing I can overcome and you can overcome, right? It's just a lack of knowledge. And I wrote here, I'm ignorant in a lot of things. And all I mean by this is like, there's things in the Navy I don't really know as much as I know the Army. And across the board, it's the same thing. And so today I want to really be diving deep into GSA and talking about that. I'm going to cover down on 10 different hidden tools. We've got 30 minutes and now we've got 26 minutes. There's no way I'm going into depth. And so one of the things I want to point out here is that if you go to the Library of Congress, it used to be one of my favorite things. Up all around the ceiling and the high on the walls, et cetera, there would be a quote. And I can't remember, but I think there was a quote, like you would see the who the quote came from. And the idea in the library was that they were trying to get you inspired by the quote and make you want to go learn about the person who said that. And it was a really cool idea. It was so long ago that I saw that for the first time and it still sticks in my mind. And Here it is the same thing with the GSA tools. I am going to go super fast. My job is in no way to train you, barely give you scraping on it. But what I want to do is to make you recognize or help you understand that here are 10 tools that you can go after begin to rock and roll. We're going to get going on that. If you don't know who I am, though, my name is Neil McDonald. I'm the president of the GovCon Chamber of Commerce. I am founder of Call Plan AI. And I want to welcome you to my federal sales training, where I provide tips for success in the federal market. I spent 20 years as a small business government contractor after I got out of the Army. And since 2018, after I sold my last company, I've been teaching people like you that government contracting is not a secret. It's just a process. When we follow a process A to Z, we have repeatable, predictable results. And this is what I want for you. If that's what you want, repeatable, predictable results, put process rocks in the chat. Let me know you're here for the ride. If you haven't done so already, make sure you follow me on LinkedIn and also subscribe to my newsletter, Government Contracting Success Newsletter. Today, I just put out an article. I don't know if David Waltz is in here today, but he's a Navy buyer or small business professional, so part of that buying community. He was mentioning in yesterday's training about he's got a supplier portal. So I just put out the step-by-steps in an article. So go subscribe, make sure you follow on and get onto David's thing or the Navy supplier portal for him. Tomorrow, I'm going to be talking about wind themes. I'll come back and talk more about it. But if you're interested in having stronger proposals, that's what my purpose is tomorrow as we go forward. Okay, hey, one thing I just want to mention since tomorrow I'm doing this, I am putting out an AI masterclass, a wind theme masterclass, AI, like I'm going to teach AI. A wind theme masterclass. It's free. So if you're interested, go check out this URL. Maybe somebody can put it in the chat. I will show it again in a minute. And I'm going to sit there and thank Voltron right now. I appreciate Voltron being our sponsor. I'm collaborating with the CEO, Mac, on the masterclass that's going to be dropping on Veterans Day. But Voltron is the sponsor of these lives, and I really appreciate them supporting us as we go forward. It enables me to bring this content to you. Okay, so let's get rocking and rolling. By the way, I think everybody needs to watch the Blues Brothers so I can do references like, we've got a full tank of gas, a half a pack of cigarettes, and we're wearing dark sunglasses and it's night. Something like that. It's like, all right, we're ready to go. I've got 10 things I want to show you in 23 minutes, which is good. So I'm going to start with the ones that all of us know. And hopefully in here, I'm going to share things that maybe you haven't seen, especially if you're a more seasoned person. But I just want to come into SAM, right? SAM's a place where we can come in. I'm doing the very basics, but SAM, I can come in here and I can search on the contracts. And the things I like is right here. If I zoom up, these are the type of contracts I can look at. Upcoming opportunities that are being competed right now, and opportunities that have been awarded. So you can come in here and see that kind of data in here. It's run by GSA. Another one in here, you can come in here and find, let's just type in SharePoint. I can come back here and see all the contracts that have been awarded. I can sit there and say, well, show me the SharePoint contracts in Department of Interior. In here is where I can see, let's say 90% of all contracts that were awarded. You don't see classified contracts in here like CIA and other stuff. They're not in here, but you can see a huge amount. So anything you want to find for understanding contracts that have been awarded or looking out into 26, 7, and 8 and going, which contracts do I wish I had won? I can watch for them expiring in the next year or 2 or 3 and put them in my pipeline, start doing capture. That's the advantage of FPDS. A pretty way of looking at that is inside of USA Spending. So USA Spending brings FPDS data in here and allows you to see contracts that have been awarded, and you can see who won them. You can get descriptions of it, et cetera. You can massage the data. One of my favorite things to use USA Spending for is, like, I might look here and say, hey, the Bath Iron Works Corporation, whoever they are, right? I might go, oh, they're a little big for me to compete against, but I can sit there and say, oh, I want to go after these guys. What contracts have these guys won? And again, I'm not teaching you here. I'm trying to show you how cool the data is so you go look at USA Spending on your own. But now I can look here and I can say, oh, look at all this stuff this one company has won, and I want to do some of the other stuff that they've done, or I want to go kind of compete with them in the next go around or something. Well, I can find that information in here. One other thing about USA Spending is it's an expansion of FPDS. So FPDS is the federal procurement data system. It's contracts that have been awarded, basically. And over here, you can get access to grants and other information, other data sources are pulled into USA spending. All right, so those three are number one. Right. So SAM, FPDS, and USA spending. Those are my first GSA tip for you. Second one, and again, I know I'm moving at a high speed. That's totally cool. My job is to just get you interested in a tool. Then you go spend days becoming really familiar with it. So this next one is called the forecast tool. It's the GSA forecast tool. And if you come in here, a lot of stuff you can read. By the way, one of the things that makes me an expert is I come into the acquisition gateway and I see this thing said training, and I spend 4 to 8 hours reading things or watching videos or taking the webinars. I would highly encourage you to do that, and or the people on your team. That's how you get better at something. Okay, so these are forecasts. If you're not familiar with this, federal agencies try to have a forecast out there of what they're going to be buying. And so in this particular case, some of the agencies are using the GSA forecast tool. Hopefully, if the government gets their act together, everybody will use this one tool. Why should I go to many, many places in order to find a forecast when it can be in one tool, right? Soapbox. I'll step off my soapbox. But in here, I can say, I can look in here and choose agencies, like let's say the SBA. And as you choose things, come on. So as you choose things, it loads it up. You can see the SBA doesn't use it that much. Let me close it down. Let me show you something else. Like I can do my NAICS code. Let's see hey, 541611. So from 12,000 forecasted opportunities to 127, right? And so that's enough for me to go in and look. You can learn to explore this tool. My favorite thing, when I see 127, I see a browse. I'm just browse. If I see 1,000, I will browse it. I won't really search it that much more because I'd rather see everything and see what I'm discovering through exploration rather than like really tighten it down by, if I said here, let's say staffing. If I did staffing, I wonder how small it'll go. 0, right? It took me down to 0 from 127. But if I went and looked at those 127 items, I can look in here to see what they're selling. If I scroll down a little bit, let's look down here. Budget business process implementation. I'm like, okay, let me take a look at that. Here you go, administrative support services. If I dig further into it, maybe it's not staffing, but if you look in here, I can see that it's, $1 million or less. That's a good contract for us smalls. $100,000 here, $100,000 there. It adds up to real money, right? Okay, so that's your GSA forecast. Let me zoom back in. Your GSA forecast, number 2. By the way, if you're feeling this as we go along, throw the tool name into the chat so other people can see it and go, what's that? But GSA forecast tool, put that in the chat. And by the way, just making sure I can see. Okay, so I see a lot of discussion in there. Good. All right, so that was 1, 2. Now I'm on to 3. Hopefully I'm tracking this right. This is my all-time favorite, I think. This is called Calc. And here is this search labor category ceiling rates. But hold on one second. What did I call it? Come on, show me my tools. I just got to go back to my list of names. Contract award labor category is what Calc stands for. But the way they call it is search labor category. The reason I like it is I can come in here and try to find what are my competitors charging? What's the average rate out there? You can see right here where they talk about, I don't know if this is the right way to say it, but the average rate. So for the 25th percentile and the 75th percentile. So obviously for me, I'd start right in the middle and go, are my rates aligned? But I can come in here and type in things like, let's see if I can type in a keyword. So I can say SharePoint administrators. That's perfect. That's funny. SharePoint developer and SharePoint developer. Do you see how it's a capital P and a lowercase p, and they've got it as 2 labor categories? Come on, fix this stuff. AI will take care of it. So I can come in here and go, oh, SharePoint administrator. And basically it's like a web manager type thing because developer is a whole nother level inside of SharePoint. But if I'm responding to a SharePoint opportunity, I've got a general idea of what people are doing. When you come in here and discover this tool, you will realize that this tool is made up of the GSA mass schedules. When the government takes the price something sheets, I can't remember what the acronym is, but when they take that price list basically from each of us they put it into a tool that a data set that they have, and the data sets comes in here. So this is awesome. And you can come in here and do all sorts of stuff, filtering around. You can, I could sit there and say, well, what if it had clearance on there? Let's see what it does. So you got to play with the data to figure it out. Remember, the tool's only as good as some of the data that's being put in. But I just said, yes, I want a clearance. And the average rate dropped by $20. That does not make any sense. But that doesn't matter. The tool is really good, and it allows me to see some of the labor categories. If I click on it, I can see the descriptions and how people describe it. And then I can also chase the company right back. Like here is BNF Technologies. I'm like, well, they're a SharePoint company. I could use that to go compete against them. I could use that to go team with them and say, hey, I'd love to team up. I could use that to say, hey, I just got started in government contracting. Would you be open to another SharePoint company teaming up with you? That's number 3. The calc is what it's called. All right. So put CALC into the chat. So this next several are a lot of fun in here. This one here is the GSA Federal Acquisition Service, I think it is, FAST. But this is their Schedule Sales Query Plus tool, SSQ Plus. But in here is just so much data. And let me zoom a teeny bit. But so much data around what's happening throughout the federal government and what's being bought. So I could look here, and I'm not going to hit every one of these because I just don't have the time. But this one here is an example. I can go in. Let me zoom. Come on. There you go. Sorry, I got a touch screen, and I keep zooming in, zooming out, but probably I shouldn't do that. Okay, so this one here, this is just an example of some of the information that's in here. So if you're able to look in, one of the things that's fun for me is I'm able to look in and start understanding the amount of contracts. When you think about how many contracts GSA, how many people are on GSA, that number is not as high as we think. And as I come in, I can start looking at contracts like this, right? And here's a tip, especially for small businesses. When you're on a GSA schedule, you need to be selling on the GSA schedule or they'll kick you off. And now in the Doge Trump administration world, FY26, they're really being aggressive. They want people off GSA who aren't selling. And so when you look at some of these people like 5 years out, that might be a place for me to click and begin to explore, well, who hasn't sold? Maybe I'll go team up with them. I can bring my expertise. They've got the vehicle. I'm able to start moving forward. A lot more data you can start going in. If I go back into going across, right, you see all this activity, contract performance by sales. This stuff loads slow. It's so much data. I don't want to spend a lot of time here. But look at this stuff. All these tabs across the top, and it slowed down on me, so I'm going to move away. But all these tabs across the top, right, you start seeing all the data that's in. They're pulling all the data out. I can go in and begin to understand what's going on where. I can sort this by economics, like categories like woman-owned business, veteran. I can categorize it by agencies or by mass number SINs or NAICS or PSCs. You can begin to filter that data down. By getting access to the data, you start understanding how you can knock on the government's door. Okay, so that was SSQ Plus. Put that in the chat if you're hanging with me on that. And let's get into, I'm losing count, but I think it's 4 or 5. We'll figure it out. But this one here, public category management data, dashboard and analytics. So category management, a lot of people had discussions around it, but basically it's just buying in common categories and then trying to get the best deal for the government. It's totally fair. What we feel is sometimes maybe unfair is that small businesses aren't getting as much access. That's just sales. That's just competition. If I go knock on let's say a $50 million company, there's not many of us who can get in there. So once the vendor pool is in, they bring it down to like 3 bids and all the rest of the 30 million companies can't compete. And so this limiting down of competition is it's not an abnormal thing for a company. In the government, U.S. government is just another company if you really look at it. So I can come in here and start seeing, and I'm going to try to figure out how to dig into this fast with you. But I can come in here and look at the different contract vehicles and how it's being spent. I've done a whole bunch of training on category management and what's called sum or spend under management. And the idea is, if I can say this just completely tongue in cheek, there's spend under management, which is doing it the mature way. And then there's spending without guardrails at all. They're just spending on their own, not even really thinking. What the government is trying to do is to move more and more of the contract spend within the government into spend under management, meaning done properly, done better, wisely spending taxpayers' money. I don't mind that they do this. What I want them to do is to keep spending a lot as a business, but them spending it wisely is not a bad thing. And as my company matures, I'm able to compete at higher levels. Anyways, I can come in here and start looking at, and again, I don't have time to look at a lot of stuff, but you can look at this across the government, different departments across the top. If you're not familiar with CFO and non-CFO, there's 24 departments that are considered CFO agencies. And you can find that. Just type in CFO Council into Google and you will learn a lot more about it. But you'll see these, which ones are so vital that we manage the way they spend, that they're in that category, which is kind of hilarious because that means there's a whole bunch that we're like, well, you spend any way you want. These 24 we're going to maintain. If I come into the category, just really quick, giving you a taste of this. In here, I can start looking at the different categories. And I really want to show you this because I can't zoom in. Oh, maybe I can. Hold on one second. Yeah. Well, I lost the whole dashboard, but it doesn't matter. This is what I wanted to show you. Inside of the government, the federal government, we group what they buy by common goods. And so there are 10 common goods that every federal agency, defense or civilian, buys. And then there are 9, I think, additional ones that are what are called defense centric. And so in here, you can see what's in here. And let me zoom back out for a second. So you see those categories. Sorry, it's my first day learning how to zoom. You can see in here, I can say, look, I do transportation logistics. If I click on this little radio button right down there, I will then see the data in a whole different way. I will see what contract vehicles are used. I don't have time to show you in here, but you can begin to dig in to find the contract vehicles that are used, how they're spending it, which departments or agencies are spending it. So this is another great tool. Okay, let me move on to the next. Oh, really quick. I just want to come back and remind you about the masterclass that Mac and I are dropping. It's a free masterclass that I'm doing together with the CEO of Voltron, and it's a masterclass on win themes. Win themes are just this idea of, in my opinion, what differentiates my company from all the others that you are looking at to the federal buyer, right? And so having that win theme drives all the capture activity I do and all the proposal messaging and voice that I do inside of a proposal. And so we're putting out a masterclass on this, and we're making it available free because as I do this training, I love free information. You shouldn't have to pay for something like that. Okay, so here you're going into another tool called the supplier-based dashboard. And this is about, we're called industry, we're called the industrial base, the DIB, the defense industrial base. And so here is GSA's take on the supplier base and how many people are out there. And one of the things that's interesting to know that I thought was really cool, the zooming drives me nuts because I'm such a touchscreen kind of a guy. You don't need to hear my problems. All right, so, but in here, what I liked and I was tracking on is this whole idea of how many new entrants are coming in. And this means prime contracts, right? So if I switch this over, where's my agency, right? So if I pick an agency like, where's HHS? There's HHS, right? I think HHS is one of the most friendly to small businesses. Does the data back it up? Well, if I come in here, they only got 37 new hub zone firms in what year is this? 2023, because the data is a couple of years behind. 37, but if I looked at all the years, I could probably see it's the same way. And so this is an important thing for me to track. If I'm trying to find out, well, I'm a hub zone, which agencies are the most friendly? And I'm just giving you one way to use this supplier-based dashboard. But I might look at this and go, well, I want to find the most friendly agencies to a hub zone firm. Like who's adding new entrants every year? Because the chances of me succeeding is better. And you can come in here and start exploring around. There's a lot in here, but this is really about looking at the at your competition and potentially teammates, what we call competimates, right? This idea of looking at them and maybe together working with them. Okay, here's maybe I'm going to reserve the right to say this is my all-time favorite every time. But you remember I said calc was my favorite. The reason this one's also kind of my favorite is because it feeds right back into what I was saying. I like to have access to my competitors' data, right? I want to know what they're charging the government. And in here on GSA, the schedules or the price list for everybody who's on mass is in here. All the large primes, all the small businesses. I could come in here and do this competition research, but I could also sit there and use it to figure out, am I charging the right rates? Am I defining my labor categories the right way? Things like that. If I've got a company much more mature than I am, like let's say they're doing 50 million or 100 million, then I can look to what they're doing and maybe learn from it. So that's one thing on eLibrary. eLibrary, if you come in here, spend weeks, right? You don't have to spend 8 hours a day every day, but spend weeks committing to beginning to understand the value of a tool, a simple tool like this. And I think this is number 6, 7, maybe a 7 out of my 10 list. Another thing I really like is, remember the categories and the spend under the common goods. I was talking about common goods. There's other great diagrams that show it. But one of the things I like is, like, I can come in here and click on human capital. And so the government says human capital, that's basically HR, right? If I go in there, I can see that they break up human capital services into 4 categories. And so when I'm trying to really focus my company, I will want to pick one of these. But look, I do human resources. So I'm going to click on this again, and I can go down further. And if I click on the GSA mass schedule right here, it'll show me the SINs and the different categories around human capital, around human resources. And all of that came from just one click. Right here is a contract directory. I can click on that and get a list of all the contractors, then all their price lists. That's just one thing, right? So I'm going to move on. I only got 4 minutes left. This one is the acquisition gateway. So a lot of things are in the acquisition gateway or the D2D. But in here, I want you to come in and take a look at some of these things where you start exploring. And the one I liked, and I don't have a lot of time to show you, is shared services. If I click in here, I begin to see how the government is communicating with itself about what they're buying. And they have frameworks. And so like FIB is another one right here that is a tool that I recommend you go check out. This is how the government is communicating to itself how to write the requirements, how to prepare for that contract they want to put out for bid to all of us in industry, right? And so coming through, I can see a lot of information in how they do that. One of the things that I especially is important is this whole idea of the framework. Every one of the categories on the left has a specific framework discussion. And if you go in there, you can click and download more information about it. I like this because it helps me speak the government's language. It especially helps me understand how GSA, which is really going to become the leader in contracts out there, et cetera, how they're pushing this stuff forward. Okay, and I know I'm going really fast, but I just want to make sure I get this last 10th tool. This one here is called the Commercial Platforms Program. This in particular is for people who are doing credit card type sales. So let's say 10,000 and below, or product sales. It doesn't have to be 10,000 and below for that, but product sales that are out there. Each one of these different 8 organizations or platforms, you could go in and figure out first off whether it's the right one for what you sell, and then register in there, right? This page, this site is for GSA to talk to the government buyer. And so you want to read that and understand how they're communicating, how they're telling buyers to find companies like yours and products like yours. But then you go into like, if I went into this one for, where'd it go? This guy here, G-commerce, right? And I don't know these guys. This is not my world. But if I go in here, I can begin to follow down a rabbit hole of what's in here. I can look in here and say, well, I'm a supplier. How do I learn more about registering myself in here? Why do I want to do it? And it talks about it, right? They give you all sorts of guidance, but they're also kind of doing a lot of the marketing out to the government as well. You still need to try to drive your buyers there, but now you got a platform. That is just one more of the tools that is out there for you on GSA. Okay, I know that was really fast. Here are the 10 tools, right, that we just covered. Let me zip forward to the thing I want you to remember. Thanks, Voltron. Put thanks, Voltron, in the chat, would you, to thank them for sponsoring us. As I tell you what I want you to remember from today's training. First off, knowledge counters ignorance. If we don't know something, we're ignorant of that topic at the moment. And so if we take the time to learn, there goes the ignorance, right? Expertise, to me, the way I'm saying this is expertise is learning what you don't know, and then getting practice at it. So knowledge plus experience equals expertise. And the last thing is, I really want to encourage you to spend days or weeks understanding the GSA tools, learn them. You want to make tens of millions of dollars, take the time to learn GSA's tools. All right, join me over at Call Plan AI. That's all I got time for to say about my own company. But remember, government contracting is not a secret. It's just process. Part of the process is ending on time. I'm out of here.